Okay, everybody, it's 2 o'clock. I know how precious your time is this time of year, so I'm going to go ahead and get started as others join us. No worries, just type your name and EPP in the chat box and we'll keep rolling. I am recording this, so it will be available as soon as I have it closed captioned through the agency. I will park it on the website, on the IHE page, as well as I can send it to you individually if you need it before that. Um, Welcome again. I'm your host, Beverly Flythe. I'm the Ed Associate in the Office of Educator Effectiveness and Leadership Development, and I'm tasked, or I have the pleasure of, working with you all about ADEPT. And joining me today as my tech support, my slide driver, is my colleague, Dr. Kimberly Howard. Kim, you want to hop on the mic and introduce yourself?
Good afternoon, everyone. I am so glad to be with you today for my first EPP office hours. I look forward to the session and anything that I can assist with. I'm glad to be here to help.
Thank you, Kim. Kim's bucket mainly involves induction and mentoring. So if you ever have any induction and mentoring questions, Kim's your guru. Also helping me today with the chat box is Clay Barton over on the Office of Ed Services. Clay, you want to hop on? I'm sure everyone knows you, but just in case they don't.
Hey, I'm Clay. I work over on educator preparation and just helping out today.
Thanks for my assistance. Or to my assistance. If you haven't done so already, if you'll drop your name and your EPP in the chat box, that helps us kind of keep track of who we need to send things to later on, as well as tracking who's where. For those unfamiliar with the Microsoft Teams platform, if you have an older version, hover in the middle of your screen to find your control icons. If you have the newer version, the control icons will be on your upper right section of your screen. If you haven't yet, if you'll click the mic to mute yourself to reduce the feedback and the interference, you'll click that same icon if you wish to hop on the mic to speak later. You may click on the hand icon so that we know that you have a question or you would like to interject your thoughts. Um, and when you finish that comment or thought, you can unclick the same hand to make it go away. If you downloaded the new version of Microsoft Teams, you may also find some new engagement features like Kim and I just found when we logged on today, such as the thumbs up, the smiley face, and you can roll over your camera and you'll find those. We are recording today, just to let you know. And so let's get started. I want everyone to know how much I welcome you today, and I'm happy to be here with you. Today we're going to talk about 4.0 evaluator renewal. Several of you have reached out to me to answer some questions about that. Expanded ADEPT updates, sclead.org. Another thing that's a hot topic amongst all of you, especially those of you going through CAPE accreditation visits, validity and reliability. And then we'll take any questions. I have a couple frequently asked questions I'll hit you with, and then open the floor for you to ask what you need to know if I don't cover it. Okay, next slide. All right, the first thing we're going to talk about again is the renewal process. Well, okay, Kim, next slide. Oh, thank you. Many of our university supervisors became certified evaluators prior to 2018. So it's time for many of you to renew your credential. For those who have a current email address on file in the NIET portal, they should receive an email at the 90-day, 60-day, and 14-day mark with the link to the assessment for recertification. Evaluators should not confuse the language in the email with their teacher certification through the SCDE. Your district administrator, who is one assigned role at your EPP, can pull the list of certified evaluators identified for your EPP in the SC Adept Support Portal under Reports. And if you need any assistance with that, reach out to me and I can walk you through it. We can do a Teams call or a Zoom call and I can walk you through it step by step. If an evaluator passes the video section but does not pass the post-conference portion, they will only have to complete the post-conference section when their 24-hour wait period is over. If you have any questions regarding the portal or recertification, again, you can reach out to me or you can reach out to support@NIET. Evaluators will receive an email to renew. They will only need to log into the ADEPT portal and complete the assessment, and successful completion of that will give you an additional 3 years of evaluator credential. Okay, Kim? And here are the steps. There's the link. At the end of this webinar, I will send you an email. It will contain all of the links that we discuss or that are embedded in the slides today, and it will also have several attachments as well, documents that I referenced during the webinar. Part 1, you view the video and you rate on the instruction domain, and Part 2 is the post-conference section with the multiple choice questions. It's the exact same exam that you took to become an evaluator to begin with. Refer to notes from initial 3-day training with the handbook and the workbook if you feel uncomfortable about answering the questions. A certificate will automatically be generated upon successful completion. After an unsuccessful attempt, you will be asked to wait 24 hours before reattempting, and your credential will automatically update in the NIET portal. Okay, Kim? Many of you currently have 4.0 trained trainers on staff who are certified and trained to provide training for your new evaluators. Please complete the survey if you do not have a trainer on staff, or if you're interested in having a trainer on staff, or if you're just not sure. We just would like to have this information for our planning purposes. So the link is embedded on the slide, but it will also be in that email I'm going to send out this afternoon. Our next scheduled trainer training is scheduled, thanks Lila, is scheduled for April 2022, but we're happy to add one later in the summer if there's enough interest and need, and we get that timeline kind of feedback from you also. If you do not have a trained trainer and have a newly hired supervisor or faculty member who needs to be trained, please reach out to me and also complete the survey. And then I can put you in touch possibly with a neighbor who's offering training. We've been able to do that pretty much throughout 2020, and it's really worked out great. So thanks to all of you who were doing virtual trainings, who encompassed a fellow EPP person from another institution. We appreciate your help with that. Okay, next slide. All right, now for the expanded ADEPT updates. Okay. Molly has asked us to take a step back and look at anything we've done during this extraordinary year that works well, particularly if it streamlines what we require of districts and EPPs. We plan for these updates to be implemented after the board meets in May. By districts in 21-22 and by the EPPs, we expect them to be in your ADEPT plans in 22-23. In particular, with teacher evaluations this year, these 3 things will become a part of guidelines. We have implemented the simplified SLO, an option for focused induction walkthrough observations, and virtual observations and conferences. These are already allowed, but we plan to make the language a lot more specific and explicit in the guidelines. The next point is to let you know that last August, NIET updated the environment domain based on their research to maintain the same indicators, but to update the descriptors to better reflect an emphasis on student engagement, safe and positive environment, and equitable access to learning. NIET introduced the new language as part of their module they led in the fall. But we didn't want to rush to make the change in SC Lead, so we will bring the new language to our board this spring and provide resources to help your evaluators understand the additional language in the indicators. Additionally, we're so excited to be partnering again with NIET to release 2 additional virtual models early this summer. These modules for virtual instruction and virtual evaluator calibration will give instructional leadership teams a protocol to use as to ensure that they are well prepared going forward to observe educators during their evaluations in virtual environments. And we'll make these available to you as soon as we receive the links for those. Okay. In other news, we've been hard at work revising the school counselor, school librarians, and speech language professionals evaluation models. They've had the same one since 2003. Despite significant changes to the national standards for their respective professions. Starting in the 2018-19 school year, we began gathering feedback on an updated evaluation instrument for the special areas. Those
Okay.
updated instruments are being piloted across the state this year. We had several districts that piloted this year. And so we're getting some really valuable feedback and input from those pilot districts about how to go forward with it. The major changes include realigning to the national standards for each, a rubric. They've never had a rubric before, so the rubric is new. Stronger training and guidance from administrative evaluators, a reduced amount of paperwork, and the alignment to the reflective cycles that are both part of both the teacher and the principal evaluation models that we currently use. These changes will be implemented fully in 21-22 in the districts, with the exception if they are included in the preparation program ADEPT plans for 22-23. Okay, so you don't have to worry about putting that in your ADEPT plan. You're welcome to, if you want to go ahead and start addressing it, you're welcome to go ahead and address those this year if you have those programs, but it will be required in 22-23. Okay, next slide. Your ADEPT deadlines, I've had a question about this just today. February 1st is when all of your fall teacher candidate and graduate result data is to be entered into SC Lead. June 1st is when the spring candidate data is due, and July 1st is when your EPP ADEPT plans are due, and all of those things are submitted via SC Lead. All right, let's look at uploading your ADEPT plan, since that's, something that we have a lot of questions about. Your ADEPT plan is always due the 1st of July. There are no major changes to the template this year, except for the addition of a question about culturally responsive teaching practices and diversity. And it's just a thought-provoking question for our benefit to help us lead our work with you. The template can be downloaded in SC Lead under the ADEPT Plan tab, and it should be there, I'm told, in the next week or so. It's been sent, but it is available. It's going to be, those templates are going to be attached to the email that I send you this afternoon, and they should be posted on our webpage also in the coming week. For more information or detailed instructions or a step-by-step guide to uploading your ADEPT plans, if you'll reach out to me, I have a quick guide that I can share with you. And those quick guides will also be, as soon as they pass accessibility, I will be putting them on the website also. Okay, special areas programmed ADEPT plans. The guidelines are located on the website at that link, and of course that link will be in the email this afternoon. If you provide these programs, or if you're interested in learning more about those changes to those evaluation models, our next special areas Train the Trainer is May 7th, and the FormStack registration link will be included in that email this afternoon. If you're interested, if you want to learn more, that would be a good place to learn more about them. If you just want to take a shallow dive, there are many resources on our website, and I can send you the link to those also. Okay. Now we're going to talk about reports in SC Lead. Okay. First step is submitting your student teaching results, and that's the thing that's due in June for spring. Hopefully you're finishing this up right now. Several of you have asked, what exactly do you have to have from us? What is required? Well, the first thing that's required is the ADEPT plan, and then after that, the student graduate data. In addition to your ADEPT plans, the other piece of required data is your candidate results. At the conclusion of each semester, it's time to upload your student teacher results. Once you've logged in and landed on your home page, and as most of you probably know, we went through a process last week. I sent out an email with a template asking your deans to help me clean up the access to SC Lead to make sure that anyone who was supposed to have user rights has user rights. And so I'm still waiting on a few of those to come in, but everyone so far who has responded has been updated in SC Lead. So if you're supposed to have rights, you should have them. At the conclusion of each semester, it's time to upload these results. Once you've landed on the page, click Import Candidates on the left. Just a reminder that fall candidate data is due February 1st and spring is due June 1st. Once you've selected that import candidates, you'll be directed to an import page. Here's where you'll download that spreadsheet template, and we've updated that template. So if you've done this in the past and you have that template saved on your desktop, I would strongly encourage you to get rid of it and download this new one, and download it each time you get ready to do this process, because we do make slight changes to to the formulas in Excel. And so you will drop down, you use the menu and the drop downs in the box. There's the first page is instructions. The second page is where you put your data. The instructions on the front give you helpful tips like don't put dashes in the social security number. If your social security numbers begin with a 0, make sure you put an apostrophe in front of that 0 so that Excel recognizes that that 0 is supposed to stay and doesn't take it out. Those are just some helpful tips we've learned along the way as we process this. We've also worked very hard with Clay and James on the other side over there to update that programs list and make it the most effective and efficient and correct version we possibly can, so that also that certification, so that it matches the certification for the student teacher. So the programs list is now updated and maintained in cooperation with Office of Ed Services, and it is a drop-down menu. So you're going to only have access in the drop-down to the programs that you offer at your EPP. And so, and that makes reports easier to pull and disaggregate later. You've been asking for that reporting by program, and we've finally been able to give you that. So we hope you're pleased with that. All right, next slide. Once you've completed the template, I would definitely save it on my desktop, save a copy somewhere, but then you will simply follow the instructions. The instructions on SC Lead are very user-friendly, I believe, and that's coming from somebody that, you know, struggles sometimes with keeping up with all the different platforms that I have to use. So once you have entered all the data into the corresponding columns, you save the spreadsheet, you go back to the import page, click Browse Files, and continue. Okay. And once you've done that, then you see that validate button. Each time that SC Lead performs that step, it's going to give you that validate button, and then the last button is going to be to apply your data. Once you click that, you should get a green check and you're good to go. If for some reason you get an error message, if you click on the I in the circle, it will tell you what you're missing or what's wrong. If it doesn't have the right student to match, if a number's off in the social security number, or for some reason there's any information that SC Lead is not able to match up. If you have any questions at all during this process, always reach out to me. I am always available to help with that. Okay. So we've talked about putting in stuff. Now we're going to take stuff out. Generating reports in SC Lead. On your dashboard, there's a reports on the left menu on the left. This will bring up the list of reports that are available to you, and that's what that list looks like. The names of these reports have been changed from ADEPT reports to evaluation reports because we now include PDEP data in them as well. We have been hard at work with our partners at Randa Solutions to tweak and make continuous efforts to fine-tune these reports to be exactly what you need for your accreditation reviews and your reporting. It's a one-stop shop here, or we want it to be as much as possible. Okay. Summary reports. After you select reports, this will bring up a drop-down menu where you're able to select from several reports, including graduate yearly evaluation results, and that's EPP program and evaluations, student teacher summary, student graduate ADEPT results. The results reports compare graduates of your institution with statewide averages. That's the summary report, and you'll see in the column, if you can see, the first two rows, the first two columns are your institution results, and then the other two columns are the statewide results. So you can compare by indicator compare your EPP to the statewide average. Okay, just a reminder that this report, keep in mind that SLOs can be rated locally. The districts have the luxury and the leisure to create their own rubrics. So keep that in mind. Also keep in mind that that this report is limited to annual 1 summative evaluations over the last 7 years of your graduates over the last 7 years. So anyone who has graduated from your EPP in the past 7 years who is evaluated under an annual 1 contract should be included in this report. It's also too important, and remember that the SCDE issued flexibility to support districts during the teacher evaluations of 2019-2020, so there may be fewer SLO results for that year. Okay. I feel like this needs, like, you know, buzzing neon lights and funfetti and stuff, but we're stuck with just a PowerPoint today, so sorry. But you asked for it, and here it is. The new and improved Student Graduate Evaluation Results Export. In these newly improved ADEPT reports, you have access to the 4.0 indicator scores and domain averages. And I know it's kind of hard to see in that screenshot, but once I send it to you, you can blow it up. SLO scores, and no longer the plus or minus 0 or 0.25. Now it's the actual ratings. Needs improvement, exemplary, proficient, overall met and not met ratings, and program data. And that's going forward from 2020. You'll be able to pull results by program and year. Based on your feedback, we've removed the limit of 10 qualifier for you. So our smaller EPPs who have fewer than 10 graduates should be thrilled with that. And it should really benefit your continuous improvement efforts. Okay. This is the Student Graduate Evaluation Results Detail Report. This report lets you know who is included in that previous report. In order to know which of your graduates are represented in the report, we have created this details report, which identifies the educators represented in the export. So just remember details, people, export, numbers. Okay. Next, we have the student staffing report, which identifies which of your graduates are found in which district by evaluation year. You can also run this as an export report, which can then be, it populates into a spreadsheet, and you can disaggregate it and filter it to suit whatever reporting needs you have at that time. This report lists the evaluation year and district for every student reported by any given EPP. This report contains the name of the EPP, the name of the graduate, and what year they were reported by the EPP as a graduate, as well as the semester and results for them. Then the columns move into year evaluated using a summative evaluation, and then the district that evaluated them that year. This is a tool you can use to see what districts are employing your graduates in what years. Graduates listed in columns A through J with blank information for the rest indicate educators who were not employed in a South Carolina public school district after graduation. Okay. Now, if all of that is not enough, which I find it hard to believe that as much as we're giving you that you would need more, but you might. And so if you do, you can always request an order request. As in the past, if you want additional data, you can go through the agency data requesting process, which requires a data sharing MOU with the agency. This process for requesting data should be reserved for only information that you don't already have access to, because putting in requests for things that are already in SC Lead that you have access to, it just churns up the system, and it slows everything down. So please check with those reports or check with us to see what you do have access to before submitting an order request. We don't want to clog the system. If you have any questions about data available to you or you do not have an MOU on file, you will need to process one with ORDA. These are usually compiled without charge to the institution, but if the request requires extensive pulling together of information that isn't readily available, there may be a small fee associated. Okay. Now we're going to talk about the hot button topic of validity and reliability. One of the questions we receive a lot is regarding the validity and reliability of the rubric, and I know that's part of the CAPE evaluation, CAPE standards. So allow me to share some insight from our partners at NIET. Okay, this is a frequently asked question that we get. Do EPPs have direct access to the validity and reliability studies for this instrument? Yes. In the past, these documents were available upon request. OEELD and OES are currently in the process of updating our web pages in order to make these resources available to you on demand. In the meantime, further research is also available to the EPP by contacting Josh Barnett or Tanae Hudgens. They're the part of the research team at NIET, and I'll be glad to put you in touch with them if you don't have their contact information. Okay, next slide. NIET rubric outperforms other observation rubrics, and this is some of the data that NIET has collected to stand behind their research and validity. Internal research on the validity and reliability of the instrument from NIET looked across 11 states and 4,000 teachers and resulted in finding the highest correlation in large-scale research on rubrics. That internal correlation was a 0.24. This internal data was also validated externally in Texas by AIR to have an even stronger correlation coefficient of 0.27. And all of this I will send to you. I'm sending it to you as a PDF and also the link to the research page in the document this afternoon. Okay, next slide. In the graph on the left, you'll see the ratings for the traditional teacher ratings as compared to the NIET teacher scoring. Say that fast. You can easily see the trend traditionally has been to score in the highest rating bracket. This skewed scoring has been attributed to evaluation models which are neither well designed nor well implemented. This lopsided trend in teacher evaluation, I learned this last week, is called the widget effect. This chart clearly examines how the NIET rubric challenges the widget effect by showing a more normal curve and distribution of scores, rather than a skewed positive trend in teacher evaluation. We don't want to give just 4s just because we want to make people feel good and smile. We want to actually reflect what we see in the classroom. NIET created their rubric to help combat this issue, which unfortunately has had a detrimental effect on public education across the country. Okay, next slide. The National Council on Teacher Quality rates NIET rubric as the most comprehensive in 2020. They provide a third-party review looking at national K-12 studies and IHEs using K-12 rubrics. Our rubric was rated the highest and the only rubric that covered all the core elements that the NCTQ required in a rubric. So again, we'll send you all of that information this afternoon. Okay, next slide. If the EPP, here's another question I get a lot, and I've gotten it from some of the CAPE visitors. If the EPP chooses to tweak the rubric, are they required to resubmit to the state to ensure the revised rubrics are valid and reliable? We've never required this, but we do approve EPP adept plans annually. I read each one of your adept plans from cover to cover and give you feedback on that. As an example, some EPPs ask to use different performance level titles, emerging versus needs improvement, or to supplement the language and professionalism with more teacher candidate specific details. Neither of these alter the validity and reliability. In particular, the professionalism domain is tailored to each state that uses NIET's tools. Should the EPP choose to alter the rubric in a manner that voids the validity and reliability, it is acceptable for that EPP to conduct and submit its own validity and reliability studies and findings to the SCDE, to us, and to CAPE. Just one note that NIET made when I was speaking with them is also, as a state, we do not want to have a wide variation. We want to be consistent across IHEs and K-12. Our feedback from districts is that they prefer hiring from those EPPs who do not deviate from the NIET rubric, as they find those teachers to be the most well prepared. And the folks that I spoke with at NIET last week were very complimentary about a lot of you. So for further information on the validity and reliability of the NIET rubric, there are 2 more resources, and I will again send those links to you in the document this afternoon. And if you have any further questions about validity and reliability, you can reach out to me, or again, you can reach out directly to Josh Barnett or Tanae Hudgens at NIET. Okay, let's go on. Okay, questions. I'm going to give you two of the most frequently asked questions of the last couple of weeks, and then and I think we'll got one more thing and we'll take your questions. Once students have returned to in-person learning in August, will university supervisors be required to return to conducting 4.0 evaluations in person? We encourage districts and EPPs to follow the format of the cooperating teacher, virtual observations for virtual classrooms and in-person observations for in-person classrooms whenever possible, particularly for summative observations. However, just as we've offered flexibility for conferences to take place virtually, we will offer flexibility for observations to happen virtually moving forward. And as I said before, that language is going to be a little more explicit in the guidelines. Okay. I need to run reports for my CAPE visit and cannot access what I need in the IHE portal. What am I doing wrong? I get this one a lot. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that you're not in SC Lead every day. And so you've been using the IHE portal for so long that it's your fallback. But beginning in 2018, EPP ADEPT data is tracked and stored in sclead.org. We just went over all the reports you have access to there. If you or the person responsible for entering or accessing your EPP data needs access to SC Lead and you didn't send it to me already in that form I sent out last week, please reach out to me so I can grant you the rights you need. Also, I'll be reaching out soon, and I already did, to attempt to clean up that EPP user list. I want to make sure that everybody that needs rights has them and that everybody that doesn't need access to your data is removed from your list. So please respond to that email if you haven't already. If you didn't get it for some reason, or if you need me to send it again, I'll be glad to do that. Just let me know. Okay. Now, it's time for your questions. I know that was kind of down and dirty, but I wanted to make sure I hit everything, and again, trying to be conscious of your time, and wanted to give you plenty of time to ask questions also. So either come on the mic or hop on the chat and ask away.
Beverly, I have one.
Hi, Carolyn.
Hey, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good.
Good.
The actual template that we'll be using this year, will it be like last year where we just highlight what's different? Or will this be totally different from last year?
The questions didn't change much, but because of that cultural diversity and culturally responsive teaching question, I removed the highlight button. You're again, if nothing has changed in a certain section, feel free to just either copy and paste from last year or just let me know that it's the same.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. And that new updated template will be attached to that email this afternoon.
Beverly, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
It's
Hey,
Cal
Cal.
Johnston from Francis Marion. How are you?
I'm well.
I'll put my camera on so I'm not invisible to you here. I was looking at the South Carolina Lead site, and I was looking for reports on first-year teachers, really, who may have taken the ADEPT, who've been measured by ADEPT. Are we able to find that in South Carolina Lead?
Yes.
Okay. So if I go to, like, say, 2018, 2019, and I look at the APS, the under reports, APS for classroom-based teachers under SAFE-T, I'm not seeing any information there. Am I looking in the wrong place?
They would not have been measured under SAFE-T in 1819. That was the first year we implemented SCTS 4.0. So
Okay.
make sure, and that's a kind of trick. Make sure when you are running your reports that if you're selecting a year that was a SAFE-T year, you select SAFE-T. But if it's been since 2018, make sure you select 4.0.
I've got you. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Mhm. And if that doesn't
It's-
work, let me know and I'll be glad to walk you through it.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Beverly.
Sure.
I appreciate that.
Beverly, we do have a question in the chat, and that
Okay.
question is, will you share this recording?
Yes, as I said, and it might have been before we started, we have to have it closed captioned, and that usually takes 3 or 4 days. So as soon as it has been closed captioned, I will shoot it out to you, and it will also be placed on the website.
All right, we have another question in the chat. How fast is the data rolled out in after a given semester teaching year?
Districts report to us and have to have their evaluation results in to us by June 20th. And so it usually takes a little while before it's available to you after that. Lila, I think if you're still on the call, do you know exactly how long it usually takes?
Once it's in, it's usually about a week. So by July 1st, you should be able to see those 2021 information there. And that's just because we do a little bit of double checking with districts who maybe didn't report everyone to try to get those last few sheeps inside the pen.
Thanks, Lila. I didn't want to overestimate or underestimate our timeline. I knew last year it was pretty efficient. Either I did a really good job or y'all are just so overwhelmed you're scared to ask anything. I really hope it's that I did a good job. I know a lot of this was repetitive for some of you, my folks that have been with me the whole time I've been with you. I've been here 3 years now, so we've several of us have made some partnerships, but for the new folks, I really hope that this will be a resource for you. My buddies around the EPP world know that I'm only a phone call or an email away. I'm happy to help, as are my colleagues on the Ed Services side. So if there wasn't something that was clear or if I can assist you, I'm happy to hop on a call and walk you step by step through something if that's what we need to do.
Hi, Beverly, this is Kevin Eakes. I have one question.
Hi, Kevin.
We have several adjunct supervisors who are retired teachers and principals who who were initially certified in SCTS in their districts. So they don't show up on our report. Can NIET transfer them over if the person is willing to do that? How should that work?
Yes, and that is one of the things and I'm glad you brought that up. That was one of the things I wanted to talk to you all about is cleaning up your EPP NIET sheets or rosters in the portal. If you are the district administrator, if you can look at those reports and see, okay, who's been gone 10 years, who's never coming back, who's whatever. If we can kind of clean those lists up and make sure that the folks that have joined your EPP are now assigned to your EPP. A lot of it has to do, I think, with the email address, and so and as well as their personal information. So if they didn't update their personal profile in NIET when they moved to you, it won't be correct. So we really want to get that cleaned up, and I'm willing to help. If you will have them, if they remember their NIET login and everything, they can go in and request the corrections at support@niet.org. If that's not an option or if they don't remember, if you'll reach out to support@NIET or let me know and we can do it together.
Thank you. That's very helpful.
That's also a good way to know who your trained trainers are on staff as well, and who your trained evaluators are. Sometimes you don't know you've got certified evaluators on staff until you look at the list and say, oh, she's been through training. Okay, Jared, I see your question. Probably a bad question. There's no such thing as a bad question, unless you're my child and you've asked me to do the same thing 5 times and I keep saying no. But if we start to use more of the 4.0 information for accreditation, are we confident this access to the 4.0 evaluations will continue for an extended period of time? Lila, is there a time limit? I mean, we're housing that information, storing that information is supposed
Absolutely. Part of what we are required to do is share some information with you about the evaluation system. And so I don't imagine, short of the General Assembly requiring us to do something different, I don't know that we would ever stop that, Jared. So you can rely on being able to get information about how your candidates perform on adept evaluations, unless we see some big policy change. But all of the policy I'm seeing over at the State House this year is really more on the other end, that they would like us to share more information and have, ed prep dashboards that help, maybe even candidates check those things out. And I certainly am not a lawmaker, so I'm going to let them make those decisions. But I will tell you, we intend to continue to share information with you, as we have since the beginning of the ADEPT system, when we first got our first data system.
Thanks, Lila. Any other questions?
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the information and your time, and I plan to use some of it. Thank you so very much.
Thanks, Cal. It's always good to see you all. It's always good to be with you. Of course, we would love to be together in person and share some cookies and lemonade, but that's not where we are right now. But thinking about you all, hope you're all well and continue to be well. And I'm going to stay on the line for a little while. If you have any questions, that you don't feel comfortable asking in front of the group, I'll be right here. For the rest of you, thank you so much for giving me some of your time today. I really do appreciate it. I know how precious that is right now. As always, you feel free to reach out to me. There's my contact information. There's Lila's contact information. We're both here to help. And as always, happy to support you in any way we can. Thanks again to my fantastic tech support, Dr. Kimberly Howard and Clay Barton.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye. And yes, I will. I saw somebody ask the question. I will send out as soon as I pull the list, the attendance list from the chat box. I will send out the email containing a PDF of the PowerPoint and the links that I promised you, as well as the templates for your ADEPT plan.
Beverly, I have a question for you.
Sure. Hey, Rachel, how's the baby?
Oh my gosh, he's so great.
He's so precious. I love watching him grow up.
He'll be 6 months on Thursday. It's wild.
Stop it. You're making me feel old.
He is a doll. I keep saying we will keep him. I have a question because I want to figure out how, sometimes I have to figure out how things are sort of fleshed out. With the list of trained evaluators. So we're kind of split. We have our field placement person who really does all of the candidate upload of 4.0 through internship and that kind of stuff. But then I do the report, and we're both trainers. So who really should we both see our list of trained evaluators in the SC Lead? Where can you help me find that?
Yeah, it's in the SC ADEPT support portal.
Okay.
And that's where you go to get all your training materials when you do the training. All you do is go under, I think it's under administration, and it's under users.
Okay. And I thought I looked the other day and I didn't see our list of people.
If you're not, if you're not the district administrator, you won't see the list. So it's not okay.
No, I said it may be Mary Ann, and that's okay. but I just need to kind of figure out, because she's really our field placement person, so she would be the right.
Lila, do you know if they can have 2 district administrators in the portal?
I can't remember, but it's worth asking. Just email support@niet.org, and if they can accommodate it, they will.
Okay. Okay.
Just copy Beverly on it so they know that you're not going rogue.
Trying to take all that power for yourself.
I don't want that much power. But no, that's helpful, so I can kind of figure, because I thought I looked last week when I sent out reminders to my faculty about the training, because there's a handful who need their 3-year recert. But I could not see that user list.
Kim said districts can, so I think if the districts can, I'm sure you all can.
Okay. And it may be that Mary Ann is the one who has that access and not me. So we'll just double check on that. Okay. Awesome. Thank you. That's all I got.
Beverly, who did you say? Because I don't have, this is Judy back. I don't have access to that list either.
Okay.
Who did you say we need to contact?
Support@niet.org, and you can CC me on it.
Thanks.
No problem.
All right.
Ms. Fleiss, before you go, hey, this is Clarissa Graham. I have a question.
Hey, Clarissa.
Hello. How many evaluations are we going to be expected to conduct this academic year?
That is information in the guidelines, and that has not changed, has it, Lila? 4 and 4.
There was special flexibility issued last spring that was carried forward. Let me double check the website real quick to see. I know that we encouraged you to keep it the same for this year, if at all possible, since schools were going to be back in one form or another. But let me double check what that flexibility says.
Thank you. And also, is there any guidelines or advice with regard to evaluations in determining whether or not they'll be virtual or in person? Should that be left to up to the students, or can you offer any advice how that can be worked out?
If you go back a couple of slides, I mentioned that's something that we're going to be more explicit about in the guidelines. I think it's one right here. We encourage districts and EPPs to follow the format of the cooperating teacher. So if the if the student teacher and the cooperating teacher are in the classroom face-to-face, we would encourage that the observation be in the classroom face-to-face. If at all possible. If not, especially for a summative. However, just as we've offered flexibility for the pre-conference and the post-conference to take place virtually, we have put more flexible language in the guidelines to encompass the possibility of a virtual observation. We still strongly encourage that if the teaching is actually taking place in the classroom and the students are in the classroom, that the observation take place in the classroom.
Thank you.
Oh, and Lila dropped the link to about the requirements for field placements. Thanks, Lila. I'll even add this to my email also. Any other questions? Mm-hmm.